Hello and welcome back to the Horse Racing Network with me, Izzy Phillips, and I'm joined as always by racing broadcaster and journalist Paul Auster, and we're going to be taking a look ahead to Irish Champions Weekend. So we begin on Saturday in Leopardstown, where we've currently got Yielding Ground and Rain, Paul, and we're going to kick things off with the Matron Stakes. So we've got the Fillies and Mares Group 1. It's run over a mile. Quite an interesting race. A horse who I've been championing all season, and I didn't back her when she won last time at the top of the market, and that is Fallen Angel. We've also got Aidan O'Brien's January in here, quite well fancied. Cecine. We've also got Vera's Secret, One Look Exactly, at Sealer, Cathedral, who's obviously now moved to Kevin Philippart de Foy for Ammo Racing. You've also got Choicer in here. And you've got California Dreamer, Sparks Fly, Queen of Thunder, and Duckadilly. Sorry, not for Ammo Racing, but moved from another owner, moved away from Rafe Beckett's into Kevin Philippart de Foy's. So, no, it is for Ammo Racing. Sorry, I'm losing the plot. So, an exciting field. Cathedral was one I had my eyes on all season, but Fallen Angel takes this for me. I almost can't even look elsewhere because I feel wedded to her now. But who do you think's got the best chance here?
I think this is a race where the horses at the top of the market really are the ones to concentrate on. And this is even though, as you know, regular followers know, I'm very often looking for horses at decent prices. But having had a really close look at this race, the top three, Fallen Angel and Old Rival January, there was only a head between them at Deauville 6 weeks ago in the Prix Rothschild. Those two really classy, as too is Scene, the Joseph Murphy trained filly that won the Coronation Stakes at Ascot, famously for that yard. It's hard to look beyond these three. One look with Paddy Toomey, you know, his horse is in great form, but she has a little bit to find and exactly hasn't been at her best. And Cathedral, with the best will in the world, has got about 3 lengths to find with Cecine. So I think we look at the top three, and Fallen Angel and January had that terrific battle in France, and I think they're up for another battle. And I'm just wondering if the ground goes, you know, particularly soft because it's already yielding. Which of the two horses is that going to favour most? It's probably Fallen Angel, I think. And she got her reward last time out with that really brave effort where she looked like she was beaten and then she got back up to beat January. So they're going to have a battle, but I wonder if Sir C might be good enough. The problem is, I think she'd ideally want a sound surface, although she ran well enough on heavy ground at Goodwood last time out, over a mile and a quarter. And on that basis, I think as long as it isn't any worse than, let's say, yielding to soft, I think Cersei could do the pair of them because she's very, very classy. That performance at Royal Ascot where she beat Zara Garner was really, really good, having been third to Late Victoria the time before in the Irish 1000 Guineas. And she probably didn't completely stay the 10 furlongs, especially on the heavy ground at Glorious Goodwood last time. So my gut feeling is to go with Cecine, as long as it doesn't come up a quagmire. But I think Fallen Angel of the other two is going to be the toughest nut to crack.
That sounds like kind of fighting talk from you there, Paul, with Cecine. It sounds like quite a strong fancy. So I think that personally I'm going to stick with Fallen Angel, but I can't wait to see how that race plays out. I do agree with you, though, those at the top of the market I do feel will probably sort of bunch together very much there at the finish. And you could be right, the other two could blow each other out and then Cecine's there to kind of take it. But for me, I agree with you. I think obviously currently on this going with some rain around as well, I do think that's going to favour Fallen Angel even more. And I do think January might find it quite hard to kind of turn the tables on ground that's perhaps less than ideal. So I'm going to stick with Fallen Angel. We've got a selection of Cecine for you, but a nod to Fallen Angel in with the other two in the race as well. And who knows? Maybe we'll both be wrong and there'll be some massive outsider and the rest of the field come flying by. But yeah, so I think a really exciting kind of race to start off our preview for the Irish Champions weekend. Certainly some very exciting fillies and mares in there that we've enjoyed watching all season. Following that is arguably one of the best races of the year so far, and that is the Irish Champion Stakes. That takes place at 5:30, so a little bit later in the day on Saturday. And top of the market here is Delacroix. Now, obviously, we have had a big battle this year for Delacroix. He's been having that battle with Ombudsman. One time where he got the better of him, the other time where we all had our hearts in our mouths thinking that the pacemaker was going to win the race and we were going to be Quirat all over again. But Ombudsman obviously did come through and get the win, and it showed that really Delacroix kind of struggled because of that. So he has had a fantastic season though, and that's why he still tops the market at around 5-4 at the time of recording. In here as well, we've also got Anmart, who's also been extremely consistent, a couple of second place finishes this season for Owen Burrows. Obviously got a bit of a jockey change situation going on there because we won't have Jim Crowley on board, and we obviously wish him all the best for his injury at the weekend, alongside Trevor Whelan and David Noonan also, who got injured at the weekend. We've also got Johnny Mercer's got a runner in here called Zaran. We've got Shin Emperor, White Birch, who I'll come on to, Paul, once we've got your selection. We've got Royal Champion. Well has an entry as well after, we spoke in our Doncaster St Ledger preview about the form of Aidan O'Brien, the run of Well. We've got Hot as Hell, Purview, Expanded, Mount Kilimanjaro and Serengeti. So Aidan O'Brien's chucked a few of them in here. They might not all run, but where does your interest lie?
I'm pretty sweet on the chance of Anmart. I think he's got a lot going for him. He is a very, very classy older horse, and he's an older horse that seems to be getting better as he's gotten older. Now 7, but he's now rated 123. He was rated 100 in the mid 110s, 115s last season, and then he produced that really superb performance to beat Calandagan in the Champion Stakes on soft ground at the end of last term. He was off a while, and then he only was beaten half a length by Los Angeles at the Curragh in the Tattersall Gold Cup. And to be honest, he came there to win his race, and the race fit Los Angeles just got back up in the last 50 yards or so. So that was a brilliant reappearance run. And then he caught Ombudsman on a real going day, didn't he, in the Prince of Wales's stakes. But to be beaten just 2 lengths by him is no disgrace whatsoever on ground that's probably faster than ideal for Anmart. So I think he is the one they have to beat. Now, of course, we've got a 5-4 favourite in the race at the moment, Delacroix. He was also runner-up to Ombudsman. That was last time. He was beaten further by Ombudsman at York. Then Anmart was beaten by Ombudsman at Ascot. But of course, he did beat Ombudsman in the very dramatic Eclipse Stakes at Sandown in July. That was a funny old race, all sorts of things going on there. He produced a tough as teak performance after getting boxed in and hampered to win. I just wonder, especially in the soft ground, and I know he only got beaten a nose in a Group 1 as a 2-year-old on soft ground, whether he will be quite as effective. And just how much of a hard race he had at York just 24 days ago, trying to stay with Ombudsman in the Judd-Monte. So I think Delacroix might be vulnerable. It's hard to say with Aidan O'Brien because he can bring them back so well. Zaran is very unexposed still. He's a horse that my followers had out in front have made a few bob off this season because I picked him up early on when he was still in his maidens as a horse to have on our side. And he's really progressed well, but he's got about £10 at least to find, I think, if he's going to be good enough to win. It's not beyond the bounds of the possibility he will improve again. He's a young horse, a 3-year-old, getting better. I think the ground is probably going to be against the Japanese raider, Shin Emperor, who was such a good third last year behind Economics, only beat the length over the course of distance in the same race. So I'd just be against him. I'm going to let you speak about White Birch, Izzy, because I know you like him. I think he's got a big race in him, and I think he's got a huge each-way chance. Amongst the others, not particularly sweet on any of them. So for me, Anmart is the one to beat Delacroix. And if I was doing a tricast, I'd put White Birch in as well.
Yes, I know you mentioned that obviously Delacroix is a horse that's perhaps not had that much of a rest, but it's been a little while between drinks for White Birch, 111 days off the track. Obviously, that's largely due to the fact that they've been searching for some softer ground. So hopefully, come this weekend, White Birch is going to have his day in the rain. Not in the sun, in the rain. And that's because really, if you go back to his run at the Curragh in, I think that was in May, the race you were describing between Los Angeles and Anmart, and obviously that was a fantastic finish between the two of them. Earlier in the season, I talked about how I felt Kalpana didn't show her true running in that race, but really there was one unlucky runner in that field, and that was White Birch. Absolutely flying, potentially could have been a lot closer to the to Anmart and to Los Angeles. Obviously, he's not in the field. So I do agree with you. I do think Anmart's a fantastic horse. I think, he's had some fantastic runs this season, does seem to be getting better with age. But I do just feel with the ground on White Birch's side, I think that this could be his for the taking. So I'm going to stick with White Birch for this one. Actually, I've been waiting for him to run. I really do hope that he doesn't get withdrawn or anything like that, and the ground does kind of stay in his favour. And that'll be kind of me with an all in there, I think, for that one, which is a bit dodgy because I've profited off of Delacroix's flying finish this season, and I've not quite profited off of Van Mart. In fact, he's a horse that usually spoils my bets. I know that he beat, he kind of got the better of Calandagan and Economics at the Ascot Champions Day last year and spoiled the party for everyone at like, what was he, 60-1 or something. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go and put a big performance in, but I'm sticking with White Birch.
Okay. Well, I think, as you say, he's been waited. They've waited for the conditions, and if patience is indeed a virtue, then they're going to get their due reward because he's going to run a big race for them. There was a lovely interview with the trainer and his son earlier this week on Racing TV, and they're quietly confident. They don't brag about their horses. They're really impressive guys, and I think they'd be disappointed if he isn't back there. But I just favour Anmont.
Okay, hopefully we found a winner for you there at Leopardstown, and then on Sunday we move venues and we go across to the Curragh. Currently good to firm going there, but we'll have to see what happens with that by Sunday. But we're going to take a look first at the Flying Five Stakes. Surprise, surprise, it's run over 5 furlongs, and at the top of the market we have the international superstar As Fora. Beneath her, we've got Bucanero Fuerte, Arizona Blaze, so a couple there for Ammo. We've also got Night Raider for Wafnan Racing. She's Quality takes her place here, as well as Magira, 2 Stars, Whistle Jacket, and a few more in there as well at bigger prices. I feel like you know who I fancy already because I've stuck with her all season. I think she's hit her form now. That's it. We're going for a double win. So we're going to go back-to-back victories here for Asphora after she was so magnificent at York. And yeah, I love her. I don't know what else to say. Outside of my Asphora fandom though, Paul, where do you go with this one? Some very impressive horses in this field.
There's some very quick horses in the field. I think after the case you've made for Asphora, I think we might as well move on to the next race, really. No, she's got a terrific chance. It's just she doesn't seem to run 2 races the same, this mare. And of course, it's a much stiffer track at the Curragh than at York, which is flat as a pancake and really fast. So if it does rain a little bit, which there are meant to be some showers around, the ground eases a touch, I don't know. I'd be against Asphora. The problem is trying to find something to beat her of her class. She's a proper Group 1 horse, and there aren't that many real Group 1 horses in the field. Probably the exception for me is Arizona Blaze, Adrian Murray's runner for Ammo Racing. Now, this one won a Group 3 earlier in the season at Chantilly. Then it was beaten a neck at Ascot by Time for Sandals in the Commonwealth Cup. That was a big run. Came back to 5 furlongs at the Curragh, won really impressively from Magira on good ground, and then went off favourite, remember, at York for the Nunthorpe that Asphora won. It only finished 11th, but in all the years I've been going to York, and it is many, I can tell you that there's a load of good horses that for some reason just don't seem to operate at York. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's because it really is a fast, flat track. And I'm prepared to forgive Arizona Blaze. And given that it's a previous course and distance winner, it has a very good form in Group 1 company. I think it's, for me, going to be the value against Asphora. And Adrian Murray also has Bucanero Forte, who's won its last two enlisted and Group 3 company. Um, I'm not quite sure it's got the class of Arizona Blaze in my view, but Amo certainly has a strong hand, and they'll be probably throwing both of those into the ring to try and beat Asphora.
I think it could be a really exciting race, and obviously we've spoken a little bit this season, and it tends to be in the media quite a lot this season that the sprinting division has been quite inconsistent, and like you say, that kind of ties in with the way Asfora's run this season as well, where inconsistent is probably the best description. She, like you say, hasn't been able to pull that form out multiple times, but my hope is that now she's here, she's obviously been here for much longer this season than she was last season, that she's quite settled and can maybe bring that performance out again. So I do really like the look of her. The only concern I would have is if there was a big load of rain. Obviously, we're looking at currently a good to firm going description. Yeah. We saw what happened at Goodwood. I don't think she would like that. So just fingers crossed that there isn't a massive change there. Wouldn't really want it with any soft in the description. I think good would be probably ideal. So yeah, we'll see where we go with that. I think a really interesting market, and potentially a good chance for Amo Racing to get a Group 1 there, because they obviously are fighting for those this season and haven't had the best luck so far.
No, just one other, if I may, Izzy, just to say that if it does rain, then the one horse that might really benefit from it is a course specialist, Art Power, the veteran, who loves the Curragh and loves it when it's soft ground. And he actually ran a very good race. He's only run this season 5 weeks ago, when he was only beaten 2 lengths by Bucanero Fuerte, having been off the course for 10 months. So if it buckets it down, and a bit like happened at Goodwood, as you pointed out, the ground really does change. Art Power comes right into the reckoning.
Yeah, so it could be quite a tactical bet if you bet him now and then just hope for the rain, because like you say, his price will probably come tumbling in as well, because everyone will know that that's his preference, certainly, especially if they're watching our podcast. But we are going to move on to the big one, our final race that we're going to preview, and that is the Irish St Leger. Obviously, we are aware that Doncaster has its St Leger this weekend, and you can watch that over on our other video where we have previewed the Doncaster St Leger Festival. But we're going to focus on the Irish runners here, and we have Illinois at the top of the market. Now, I think we're all waiting to see whether there will be a flip-flop, and will Scandinavia definitely run in the St Leger at Doncaster, or will he take his place here? He does have an entry, but he's obviously a much bigger price for this, and so we're all leaning towards that decision being at Doncaster. But in here as well, with a very good chance, you've also got Al Rifa, Amalok as well, very successful this season for Rafe Beckett. You've also got Al Kareem, Arabian Crown. Karmas does also have an entry, but again, perhaps unlikely to run. You've also got Crystal Black, Lambourne, Leinster, Stay True, Harbour Wind, Queenstown, Wallada, Dallas Star, and Uxmal. A few I feel are definitely going to come out here, but it's just where their preference is going to be. Do you fancy Illinois as the favourite? I know in our Doncaster preview we've spoken a little bit about the form of Aidan O'Brien if you were to take to heart the ARC trials this weekend just gone. But do you fancy Illinois?
I think this is his best trip, Izzy, this 1 3/4 miles, because I think what they've had to do with Illinois, and I don't think they've made any secret about it really, is when Kyprios unfortunately had to retire earlier in the season, they were left without a first string cup horse, and they pretty quickly decided that Illinois was going to step up and go to cup distances, and I'm not sure he was ready, to be honest. And he hasn't been disgraced in any by any means. He was second to Trawlerman in the Gold Cup at Ascot, and then he lost out to his stable companion Scandinavia in the Goodwood Cup. But I think coming back to a mile and three quarters, I think this is his optimum trip. It was about this trip that he beat Al Karim very comfortably on his reappearance. He won at Longchamp last year at a mile and seven. I just think 2 miles at the moment has been stretching him. So I think he's probably going to be running over the right trip. Whether he's going to win, I don't know. Obviously, Arifa has been in great form and he put up a blinding performance over the course and distance last time, and that was in the Curragh Cup where he absolutely murdered Shackleton by 5 lengths and had been second to Rebel's Romance the time before in the Hardwick Stakes. But I do think that, when Rafe Beckett goes on these overseas forays, as we saw at Longchamp last year, and he's done it in Ireland before, he's really worth noting. And Amalok, of course, couldn't run in the St. Leger, 3-year-olds only, at Doncaster because he's a gelding. And so he had to come here and take on the older horses. Now he gets the allowance. He's never been beaten. We don't know how good he potentially is. He keeps on winning well as he stepped up in trip, a mile and a half last time out at Ascot when he beat Zahran in the King Edward VII Stakes. And I just think that they obviously are optimistic he's going to stay. And as long as there isn't too much rain, I think Amilot could well win this for the Brits and beat the Irish on their own turf because he's a horse who we just don't know how good he might be. We think Scandinavia is going to Doncaster, as you said, and we're expecting Karmers and Lambourne also to go to Doncaster. So this race might cut up. And for me, Amalok, I think, might get the better of Illinois and Al Riffa.
I think I would fully agree with you. I think I really like Illinois at this distance. Fully support everything you said, and I know you've repeated that quite a few times this season, that you feel that they're almost forcing Illinois to be a longer distance horse than he perhaps really is, or perhaps they even really wanted him to be, because it all kind of got very rushed with what happened with Kyprios. So I think he's been a good stand-in, but he's back to his ideal distance now, and I think that's probably why he justifies that market favouritism at this point. But Amalok, we just don't know how good he is. He could be incredible. He is stepping up in trip against Illinois, who's back to his ideal trip. So I'd love to see, I can't wait to see that battle, to be honest. And I think those two will be finishing quite closely home. Another that I do like the look of in here is Al Karim. He is just a very consistent horse. Again, this is a kind of ideal distance for him. Obviously, Carl Burke's in pretty reasonable form at the moment. So I quite like the look of him in here as well. And yeah, I think hopefully one of them will win. I think obviously Illinois is probably the one I lean towards the most here. I think I'm just not sure that Amalok, perhaps being a 3-year-old, I think he might find it a little bit harder to go up against like Illinois, who's probably a little bit more battle hardened. And I just can see him kind of galloping away with this being back at the trip he loves. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the favourite, but there's certainly a couple. I think I'd probably look at maybe doing like a tri-cast or a forecast to see if I can't pick the first 2 or 3 home. See how we get on with that. But I think it's a really, really good race, and interesting to have obviously the St. Leger, the St. Leger at Doncaster on Saturday, and then obviously the Irish St. Leger on Sunday, the two following each other like that. It makes for very interesting viewing. It's going to be a big weekend of racing for racing fans, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I think we've got some great racing ahead this weekend. I think the Champion Stakes, the Irish Champion, I think is the highlight of the whole weekend across Britain and Ireland. And remember as well, in the coming weeks, we've also got so much more great racing. We've got going up to Ayr for the Ayr Gold Cup meeting, then the Cambridgeshire meeting at Newmarket. So some terrific racing, and I hope everybody's going to be dropping in to hear what we have to say about it on this channel, because we'll have plenty of thoughts and 1 or 2 pieces of advice from me and Izzy as we go along.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us again this time. Please do keep your eye out on the channel, as Paul said. We've got some really exciting content coming, and we're going to be taking a trip to the Newmarket Open Day as well, or the Henry Cecil Newmarket Open Day, as it's rightly named, and we'll be bringing you all the action from there as well.